Hey everyone, Sissy here, the gas flow specialist, and today I'm joined by Nat Hobson from Agicap, and we're going to talk about everything that you need to know about gas flow in the business, how Agicap fits into the mix and the business operations, and the challenges that business go through, and the automations, and there's so much here to talk about. So over to you, Nathan. So let's talk about gas flow today.
Yeah, very happy to be here. Hello, everyone. My name's Nat. I head up the partnerships team here at Agicap UK, and super excited to get into all things cash and dig into why it's important, how Agicap differs from other solutions out there on the market, and the value that it can add for growing businesses in the UK.
Awesome. So tell us more about Agicap. Like, how you all started? Give us like an overview, like top line overview of, what Agicap has to offer to its customers.
Yeah, sure. So, Agicap is actually originally a French company, founded back in 2016 in Lyon, and it has over the last 8 years expanded into I think 12 different geographies today. We've got offices in six, and we've got over 8,000 clients across the
Wow.
SME space. So it's been a very fast growth journey. In terms of what Agicap does, I always say to kind of anyone who's never heard of Agicap or hearing about Agicap for the first time, that the vision for Agicap is to give businesses a live overview of all their cash inflows and outflows in one place in real time, crucially structured in the way that their business is set up, because that is where, for many businesses, when it comes to getting on top of their cash, the complexity lies. Not every business is a software business that has all of its revenues paid upfront at the beginning of the year. Many businesses have much greater complexity than that, whether it be because they have multiple sites, or they've got long working capital cycles, or they operate in different geographies. And what Agicap does through its automation, through its connectivity of different systems and different bank accounts, it enables businesses to break down their cash inflows and outflows in the way that their business operates, and view those cash inflows and outflows live in the platform, and crucially then drive action from that visibility through our scenario planning features, and also through our payment features and other accounts receivable automation features.
Well, that's one that was quite a comprehensive breakdown what Agicap does, Nat. And I'm intrigued that because you mentioned like 8,000 customers, that speaks volume for itself. Like there is a great need for this kind of solution. And as a cash flow expert myself, that when I walked into the clients and they already have the accounting software, and they have accountant, they may not have a CFO in the place, or they have a bookkeeper, some they don't, and etc. etc. And some of the mindset that I've seen is that, well, I already have accounting software and I already have accountant, so why do I need another software to tell me for the data that I've already is already out there, right? So, but having said that, you've got 8,000 customers. That speaks volume that the accounting software itself is not a solution on its own from a cash flow point of view. Like, tell us, like your experience of what are the challenges that you've seen with clients coming to you? Like, what are the most frustrations? Like, oh, I wish I had this. You're like, oh shit, I don't have this. And like those kind of things. Like, what would be like two or three like the main challenges that they go through?
Yes, I think there's a couple of different questions there. So I think the first one is kind of, why would you opt to invest in a tool like Agicap
Hmm.
um, when you've already got an accounting system set up? And then to the second question, what are the main challenges that Agicap can help to solve? And I can come to that one in a bit. To the first question, I think the crucial thing is accounting software is backward looking and Agicap is forward looking. That's the main value that finance teams and CEOs get when it comes to investing in a tool like Agicap, is that their accounting software only gives them a retrospective, and the Agicap solution gives them a forward looking perspective. And Agicap has, I think 150 plus Xero and QuickBooks customers today using the tool in that way. So while Agicap depends on those accounting softwares for short-term cash flow accurate visibility, it's a very nice complement to enable businesses to get more from those solutions. Typically, in terms of features, Xero or QuickBooks can provide some of the functionality of Agicap, but they can't get to the same level of depth. They can't get to the same level of accuracy around payment timelines, and they can't provide that forward-looking planning capability that you get through Agicap scenario planning. In terms of why a business would need to or want to complement its accounting or ERP solution with a tool like Agicap, I would think of it in terms of needs. So I think there are several drivers that mean the likelihood of investing in Agicap makes more sense. So, for example, if you're a very fast-growing business, growth in a business is fundamentally about cash investments. If you need
Oh yeah.
new people, new office, new services, all of those things are going to cost money, and you are going to need to make investments into your business, and therefore having very accurate cash visibility is very, very important for that. Other reasons I think to Agicap can make sense as an investment is if you have complexity in your business, in the way that your business operates, and that can come in many different ways, often varying a lot by industry. So long working capital cycles in manufacturing businesses or
Yeah.
clothes retailers can often mean that a tool like Agicap can be very, very valuable for understanding where cash is at any given moment, and also aligning the sales forecast to the purchasing needs of the business. Other complexity can be multiple sites. I think once a business starts to get beyond a certain size, it might set up new entities, it might set up new product lines, it might have new revenue streams, it might be online as well as in a bricks and mortar store. Whatever the business be, and wherever the complexity comes from, all of those things make managing cash more and more difficult. And then I think for smaller businesses, there's also a large productivity element, and enabling those businesses to grow in a lean way, where creating financial reports is important for any business. In a way, it's kind of funny that more of it's done by bigger businesses when it's actually sort of more important for smaller businesses, because that's where the consequences of mistakes are really, really costly. And I think those smaller businesses can use a tool like Agicap to be more efficient with their time, and to better understand what's going on at any given moment from a cash perspective, and use the automated reporting functionality of Agicap to make decisions more quickly about where they should invest in their business, how they should spend their time.
Yes, Nat. It reminds me of a few of my clients who are, because you mentioned about the clothing retailers, and you mentioned also about the multi-site, etc. It reminds me of a few of my clients, and for example, one clothing retailer, because I wouldn't name them here, and she
Yeah.
was like just drowning in the paperwork, and like from the moment she had to buy inventory from China, and then come here and like go through import customs, and by the time she was selling to the biggest outlets like TK Maxx and John Lewis, etc., etc., and they had a payment term of like 60 days, 90 days. Like, she was looking at 6 months of cash conversion cycle. It was like, hello, well, there's a big problem here. You're paying for all this inventory upfront. You pay 50% upfront and 50% on delivery of the consignment. And like from that moment, again, you're negotiating with the retailer, and then you get the purchase order. You can't actually invoice the client until you have the purchase order, and you can't really, and they don't put in the due date until they have received the goods, and they arrange from a DHL point of thing. And so it takes about, you literally from the date you invoice, you're looking at minimum 90 days to get paid from these high street retailers, and like for which you've already paid like 3 months in
Yeah,
advance. And you're looking at 6 months of cash conversion cycle, and saying this is going like mental. So, see, I don't have cash in the business. How would you have cash in the business? How would you have cash
yeah,
in the business? Like, and she was drowning in spreadsheet and like doing all kind of things like. So I can get it. Like, if they have this kind of visibility saying this one gonna look like, this one gonna get paid, it doesn't go by the invoice date, what it goes by the expected payment date, which may not be the due date because due date is just academic these days.
yeah, 100%. Invoice due date. I think in all businesses, it's very rare that the invoice due date translates into the expected payment date. And yeah, the example you give is a great one of where cash becomes super, super important for those businesses because in that scenario, the consequences of making small purchasing errors on how much stock you buy are quite severe because that can extend the cash conversion cycle even further and also reduce the profitability of it. And I think one area where Agicap can really support those businesses is on the risk mitigation side, identifying opportunities to perhaps buy stock in smaller amounts and more frequently, or to understand very clearly the consequences of what's going to happen if we overbuy on stock here or we underbuy on stock, and comparing those scenarios side by side. Agicap, because of the direct integrations between the different systems and also the bank accounts, enables you to look visually at that both from a time perspective, but also as the cash balances evolve in the banks.
Yeah, and that's great, Nat. What you've just touched on here, the getting real-time information and also the accurate information is also important. And I always talk about in the people want information fast these days. Like everybody wants, like I want it now, automation, automation, automation. But I always say, like, if you don't have accuracy, like forget automation, it's just garbage in, garbage out. Accuracy first, automation second. And when they are getting information from different sources, from like inventory portal, from accounting software, and you're pulling the data from the bank statement, and the bookkeeper accountant, they are doing the work like 2 weeks in areas like this, never updated on real-time basis anyway. So you're not that transaction that's been reconciled has not been updated in their cash flow statement wherever they're preparing that one. So like, come on, you don't have something I call it joint of thinking because nothing is connected here on a real-time basis. I think this is where like Agicap comes in really, really well because it pulling the data from the bank feed is also talking to accounting software. You can talk to the other inventory software, etc., etc. So you're getting the data from all the sources on real-time basis, as well as this is accurate. And so that's fantastic.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best stories to hear when new customers start using Agicap is the increase in trust in the information that finance teams and CEOs have in front of them because they know the data is feeding directly from the uh, accounting system or the ERP system, and you've cut out this kind of middle zone of Excel where errors can be made. And the fact that it's real time means that you don't have that scenario where the finance team spends ages working on building the report on 1 week, and then the meeting's not till the following Thursday, by which time the data's out of date. Because the data is updating constantly, you can always know that the information in front of you is up to date and in real time.
Yes, and I can totally resonate with one thing, Nat. And when you said that when you're growing business, it requires cash, and I always say that a business growth demands cash flow. It demands. It just becomes like a cash-eating monster, And when the operating cash will never be sufficient because you're just expanding to new market and new product lines and etc. etc. It reminds me of one of my clients and they were selling luxury sofas and they wanted to introduce a new product line as well as selling sofas. They also wanted to use selling beds. So for that, they need to do research. They need to hire a new team to do that, etc., etc. So doing a prototype, talking to vendors, so it took them around 12 months to get going to actually launching a product itself. For that 12 months, the business had to swallow that cost, had to absorb that there is no money coming in the business from a new product line. But after 12 months, slowly, slowly things start to change. So what I saw after a year after was the selling bit, it contributed, I think around, on top of my head, it was around 27% of the overall revenue. And that product line was enough to cover not only for paying for the expenses for the month, but also cover the expenses that they had incurred in the last 12 months as well. As a result of that, so they're growing faster, the revenue range is increasing. So it just points out the need for cash to go into the market with a new product line or new location, whatever it is. And for that, for some time the business will suffer. And for that, the business has to hold the cash. It has to they need cash to justify these efforts, as well as they need cash to maintain the working capital. And where I can completely see this the software like Agicap and fits in, like they give you like whether you can do this or not, whether when this will be viable, when this when the business will start running into consistent positive cash flow as a result of that. So yeah, I think I remember at the time that doing all this in Excel, it was like, oh my God, it was really, really, really hectic, and I wouldn't want to be in that situation. It was just it was just a chaos position to be doing all these scenarios in Excel. Like, anything can go wrong. Like you can just miss a cell by not linking or linking the wrong cell. Like you just
Yeah,
it's madness.
ab- yeah. I mean, I used to use Excel a lot in my previous job as a consultant, and yeah, for flexibility, Excel wins all the prizes, but it's very vulnerable to our own errors. And no matter how much we might like to think that we don't make errors, everyone does. And in a scenario like that, the consequences can be quite severe. But I think really for me, the example you just described is one of the reasons why I really enjoy working at Agicap, because that is building a new product line is a very strategic decision for a business to take, and um, Agicap is a solution that is helping businesses take better decisions in that regard by providing that cash visibility and that ability to scenario plan side by side, manage the risk of building a new product line over what is actually quite a long period of time, 12 months, before you start to get payback, and helping finance teams and CEOs make better decisions as a result is a very rewarding thing to be doing.
Yes. So let's talk about automation now. And then this thing, like it's kind of like a buzzword everywhere. AI automation,
Yeah.
like what it can do for me, like will it do everything for me without actually lifting a finger, like those kind of things. And I know like you guys we connect with different different APIs. You connect with different softwares, etc. And I wouldn't know about from like large businesses, and my client base are doing anything like from 40,000 a year revenue to 53.8 million. So that's my revenue range across different sectors. And what would you say? But most of them are small businesses, right? So what would you say from a small business point of view, like automation, like how Agicap can like really fit in? And because most of my clients they want like real-time data, and they want they crave for this accuracy and saying, well, this is something that I can completely rely on. And what would you like say that how would Agicap would really help them right now? Like,
Well, I presume most of your clients are on Zero or QuickBooks.
yes, most of my clients are either in Zero or using QuickBooks Online.
So, how would Agicap help those smaller customers on Zero or QuickBooks? I think from a planning perspective, Agicap will provide a lot. The first thing to say is kind of in terms of automation, in terms of the setup, Agicap has an API integration with both Xero and QuickBooks. So the data feeds are very well established. Like I said, there's over 100 customers using these connections already within Agicap. And what are those customers using it for? They're using it to improve the short-term cash visibility that they have. Exactly as you said earlier, making that shift from invoice due dates to expected payment dates. And then they're using it to have real-time visibility on the banks. And Xero, and I think also QuickBooks already provide this functionality to some degree. But the value of Agicap is you're creating a one-stop shop for all of this cash information that is also a planning tool. So you have the banks connected, you have your dashboards connected, and you have your cash flow forecast, both at a short-term level and at a long-term strategic level, all in one place. And you can start to run the kind of analyses that all businesses should be running in order to grow and manage their risk in one place. Whereas typically, if you have Xero or QuickBooks, Xero and QuickBooks will provide some of the functionality that you need from a cash perspective. Maybe you've got good visibility of current balances, but most businesses of that size will be using Excel to do a cash flow forecast. So if they've got a need to focus on cash, Agicap will be able to give them a one-stop shop for all their cash visibility and a means of planning how they use their cash, be it because they've got some spare cash right now, or they need to make lots of investments in their business, or they need to de-risk their liquidity position because of downturn in sales. Whatever the scenario, Agicap's centralized visibility via the direct APIs with QuickBooks and Xero's will enable them to do that and see that reflected in their banks day by day as well.
Yes, and this is why I had to tweak the data that I get from Xero or from Quiz Online to give my clients cash flow visibility, monitoring metrics and KPIs and projection and planning, forecasting, those kind of things, because they are heavily focused on accrual basis. They're most focusing on the P&L side of the business. But it's not from the cash flow point of view. It's not like money in, money out for whatever reason it is. And so to do that, so automation in this area, hey, bring it on, and I think that will really help my clients as well, and I can see much value in this scenario. And Nat, so what would be say like who are your competitors, like who are you competing against, like what are the other solutions out there who provide similar to you, like you guys do?
So I'd say Agicap really has probably three main competitors. I think the first competitor is the one we just talked about there, kind of Excel plus a combination of accounting system or ERP system.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said a while ago, Excel is obviously a very flexible tool, but it's obviously also very manual. And the more manual elements you have, the more risk of error there is, and also the harder it can be to determine where those errors come from. And in those scenarios, when it's accounting system plus Excel, most teams are getting some of the functionality that you would get from Agicap, but not all of it. And the reason they're doing so much work in Excel is often because the accounting tool is not giving them the functionality that they need. So once they have any strategic reason to focus on cash, for some of the reasons that we've discussed, they're growing very quickly, their liquidity risk is increased, they've got some spare cash, and all businesses have short-term spare cash. I would say one of the funniest or most surprising reasons, and also most enjoyable reasons to hear from customers when they invest in Agicap is their surprise when they realize how much spare cash they have, even though they don't think of themselves as necessarily a cash-rich business. And in any of those scenarios, at a certain point, Excel plus accounting system, if you have a reason to focus on cash, is going to become insufficient. So I think that's probably the most common one that we see. is really what I would consider the kind of the status quo competitor. Let's just carry on as before. And once you reach a certain point, Agicap will probably overtake for those businesses in terms of because of the increased functionality that you can get and the reduced risk of error. Other competitors would be other automated forecasting solutions, of which there are several. And I would say two things in that regard. One, Agicap is not just a forecasting solution. It's a much more multifaceted tool today, including the ability to do payments, the ability to run workflows, to de-risk your AR, and also the ability to provide banking connectivity. Very few forecasting solutions will also cover the banking connectivity side to the same depth as Agicap. Then, as it pertains to forecasting itself, I guess Agicap has a deeper functionality and a greater flexibility. So, for example, Agicap is very good at forecasting across multiple different currencies, and many forecasting solutions out there, both in the ERP scenario or in the out-and-out forecasting scenario, struggle when it comes to multiple currencies. Similarly, Agicap is very strong when it comes to multiple entities.
Yeah.
So for multiple sites, multiple geographical entities, Agicap is very, very strong. And then finally, I think the ability to incorporate multiple sources into your forecast to produce that short-term, medium-term, and long-term forecast in one place is really, really powerful part of Agicap's forecasting value proposition. Because often a business can have a very good short-term cash flow forecast, but their forecast starts to break down in the medium term and starts to break down in the long term. By enabling these businesses to combine all that information in one place, we can start to help businesses not only have a centralized hub of their forecasts, but improve the accuracy of their forecasts over time based on the information feeding into Agicap. Then I think the final competitor that we would see would be FP&A solutions. A lot of the time, as businesses are growing, they invest in their finance team, and part of that growth journey, the natural next step seems to be to invest in an FP&A solution. And often I feel Agicap is directly compared to FP&A solutions, but actually they're quite complementary a lot of the time, and they're producing quite different outputs. And the reason to invest in FP&A versus Agicap is not always the same. So where they differ, why you would choose Agicap over an FP&A solution, Agicap will give you super high accurate visibility on your short-term cash. So because of that direct integration with your accounting system and your ERP system, Agicap will give you great visibility on your short-term cash, whereas an FP&A is typically still working in an indirect fashion. So it's taking the P&L and translating it into cash to build you your forecast view. Whereas with Agicap, you're working directly out of the system. And then with those direct inputs, you can also use the flexibility of Agicap to have that really detailed visibility of cash across quite complex businesses. So if your focus is just on the long-term planning and you don't care about cash, then maybe you do just need an FP&A solution. But if you're growing very quickly, or you have liquidity risk due to your long working capital cycle, whatever the reason be, then it makes sense to invest in a solution like Agicap, where you'll get that detailed visibility of cash at the transaction by transaction level, both from your accounting system and from your banks as those transactions evolve. And then you can forecast and scenario plan off realistic payment dates rather than dates translated out of the P&L into expected cash flow dates, which ultimately we're still going to have quite a high level of inaccuracy. So those are kind of the three main competitors that we see, and how and why companies choose to invest in Agicap instead of or alongside those other solutions.
Okay, awesome. What I gathered from this, and I've also played with Agicap the demo. I like it so much, and I like what I'm remembering right now is 3 amps. Nat, one is the multi-currency feature. Like
Yeah.
you might be operating different currencies, like GBP may, because we're in the UK, so we may be based on standard currency GBP, but you may be operating different currencies. And that's the first M. The second M is multi-entity, because you might have more than one entity, more one companies, and the business owner, they wants to know the consolidated cash position. And it reminds me of it's last week only. I met one of my clients who have like five dental practices, and he's really concerned about his cash position. He knows that he moved money from one entity to another entity, or one dental practice to another dental practice to support the growth, and because they're building something, making some capital investment, making the waiting room much better, and to give the better patient experience, etc., etc. So, but he wants to know the overall cash position, like, so at the touch of a button, because he's a dentist and he doesn't have the know-how of these things, and that's not his trained to do, and he doesn't have a passion, and he's very pressed for time. So having something like this as consolidated view at the touch of a button would, for him, as accurate, would be really, really helpful, and he will be thankful. And that's the second M. And the third M is multiple sources. So just like if we just stick with the dental here, and so they're connecting with the zero accounting software. So he has like all these dental practices are connected in separate zero account. What is missing is like A, the consolidated cash position, B, like it's not connecting to his patient portal, like whatever software he's using. Most of them they go for software for excellence, etc. And so if they have a data that coming from different multiple sources, giving them real actual view of the the um, the increase in patient income and versus the actual cash coming in the business, like which one is, like, this kind of analysis, that would be really, really helpful. So I go by three M's that what I gather from you, like multi-currency, multi-entity, and multiple sources.
Yeah, very good, Cecilia. I think I'm going to start using that myself, the three M's. Um, and yeah, if he wants, if he's concerned about a live cash position, why is he not using Agicap already? It's yeah, exactly that. I think complexity is a big driver of uh, Agicap usage, and as your business grows, and if that in his scenario where you've got multiple dental practices, it's like a new business each time.
Yeah.
That's a very big driver of complexity. And then I think of also urgency as another reason for investing in Agicap. So if his growth was being funded by debt, um, or maybe he had private equity investment, or maybe well, he is doing a lot of capex, right? Those kind of investment decisions that you've got to take in order to grow your business, you need that cash visibility. Um, and then just to come back to the final thing you said, multiple sources, I think is really, really important part of
Mm.
the Agicap value proposition, because so much of business planning in general, but definitely within finance departments, one of the challenges is siloed information.
Oh yeah.
Uh, and having the ability to accommodate so many different sources enables Agicap to give its customers a centralized information portal where they can have the short-term forecast. So, often that means like a 13-week forecast for businesses, alongside the long-term business plan, which can be, a 3-year business plan, um, which they are bringing in from maybe a budget forecast, a P&L forecast, directly into Agicap as well. And that one-stop shop for your business over the next 3 months, but also how that's going to translate into your business plan in the next 3 years is really, really powerful.
Yeah. When you mentioned the word a one-stop shop, it reminds me of experience buying everything from Amazon. Like, you go there, you can buy anything from there, like these days. And so that's why, like, people want convenience, right? Also, as well as the accuracy and all the features, benefits. And people also want the choices um, as well as the convenience as well. So So, because what I've seen when I played with Agicap is you have like different tiers of what level of support you want from
Mhm.
Agicap team, like the standard features, and then you get more advanced. So I think that's really helpful for the clients because they can pick and choose that they don't have to be like they don't have to go for one, even though they don't want to. Uh, so I always say like if your goal is to take your family safely from one location to another location, and you don't need a Ferrari for that. You don't need to go fast, right? So whatever car or the vehicle you have, that does the job, and it depends on what you need or what you need. So I like the fact that AZCab offers the different tiers of giving them choices so that the client is in control of what they need from their cash flow perspective. I like that. I played with the demo and I like the software. Uh,
Yeah.
and okay, just a final thought on this. So, if someone is on the fence that looking for a cash management solution, and what would you like say to them? Like, you know, how would AGCAP will help them right now? Because I think we covered pretty much in detail already. But just to sum it up from your point of view, like, what would you say?
Why would why should someone buy Agicap
Yeah, as a cash management solution for their business.
over other solutions? Well, I think the first thing to say is what are their needs? So, do they have a need to focus on cash right now?
Mm.
And needs can be very varied.
Yeah,
So we've talked about growth as a classic need. So you're going to need to be investing into your business. We've talked about external financing. If you've got debt repayments, failing to make those payments comes with a very high business risk. So you need to have that focus on cash. If you've got private equity investing, or you're doing a lot of capex, all of those are what I would call high cash needs, spare cash. Every business has short-term spare cash.
yeah,
Every business that they could be better optimizing. And in the current interest rate environment, we all know um, the missed opportunity of not doing so. So that would be point number one. What are your financial goals? And is cash an important part of that? Because as you said at the beginning, if they've got super messy data, that's probably a better first step, because you can't have any kind of visibility if your data is completely all over the place.
yeah,
It's not possible. So you need to sort that out first. So what kind of position are they in, and what are their needs? What are the strategic objectives of the business? Because that's what you're aiming to do with Agicap. You're aiming to achieve that centralized visibility of your cash across your systems and your bank accounts to enable strategic decisions. That's what it's about. So that would be the first part. And if they have those needs, then why would they opt for Agicap over an alternative solution? I think for many of the reasons we've said, the level of complexity Agicap's able to deal with, the three M's, multi-currency, multi-entity, multi-source, means that Agicap can accommodate a much wider range of business complexity than many other of our competitors. I think also what you mentioned about the customer support within Agicap has been a
mhm,
big factor in our becoming the market leader on G2. The customer support within Agicap, both at the lower level and at the key account level, is consistently mentioned on G2 as a reason why customers opt for Agicap. And similarly, I would say that's backed up by the user experience of Agicap by comparison to the other tools out there. And then lastly, I would say reasons to go for Agicap are it's about the bank visibility, the system visibility, all in one place, that centralized hub, and setting yourself up for an AI-based future as well. Already within Agicap, we have the AI assistant enabling the ability to advise finance teams, advise users on what they should do based on the data that they're feeding into the machine. And going forward, I look forward to a future of smart forecasting where the machine is able to use the information from last year to make recommendations for this year based on how similar the data is to last year's data, and also more standardized inputs like seasonality or some other inputs like that. So I also see it as setting businesses setting themselves up for the future with a solution like Agicap.
That's awesome, Nat. And it was great chatting to you today. And I've learned so much from you about what Agicap does. And yeah, it's a great conversation. And so we're gonna wrap it up. And so hey guys, and how would you, Nat? So how would someone find you? Like where they can contact you? Like how would they get in touch with you?
Likewise, it's been a complete pleasure chatting with you. To get in touch with me, people can find me on LinkedIn. They have to search for Nathaniel Hobson there on LinkedIn, or they can email me, nathaniel.hobson@agicap.com, or they can book a meeting with me directly via this video whenever we'll publish it, I think. So.
Okay, great. So guys, and if anybody is watching this video and want to get in touch, get a complete handle in the cash flow, whether your business is complex or you're dealing with seasonality or you're dealing with growth and any kind of aspect and your business is growing, then I highly recommend checking out Agicap and getting a demo and see that if it's a good fit for you. And I would highly recommend. And here's the thing that business is like a marathon, not a sprint, and you always need to have strong foundation to be able to keep it running for a long term. So that's where this cash in the business comes in. So I would highly recommend to have a software that in your side so that you are covered from potential pitfalls and etc. So I highly recommend it. So that's it for today. I'm Shishir and the Casper Specialist signing off for today. So I'll see you on the next one.
Thanks for having me, sir.